flat surface. But of course, let's not talk too much about bums. We're going to be taking a look at Slate versus RSG. Moving on to the drafting phase, we've got phase number 1.
It's going to be a Baxia as well as a Matilda.
Wow, okay. Yeah, I love this. I love the combo coming out from Slate Esports. Having the Baxia and having the Matilda, you give Baxia mobility. Baxia is a hero that doesn't have a dash or doesn't have an escape skill, but pair that up with a Matilda, you get in and out of fights easily. You gain a shield, and if Matilda buys a favor, you get additional heal. So you bring sustain into the match as well, into the plate as well. So what RSG is really lacking is the burst potential. You have a lot of crowd control capabilities. You do have the Valentina, but you're lacking a very, very strong burst capability. I don't know about you guys, but I think play it safe, go for the Clint, and play into the late game. Play into your draft.
I think RSG now has a very strong replay value, right? The amount of skills they can reuse in a short amount of time to create combos is really scary. That's one thing I noticed from the RSG SG lineup. And with that, they're going to complete it with a Melissa as well, back on Baby Cakes. And now, I mean, yes, I've picked RSG as the winner of this match based on the statistics, but the playstyle, I think, is really suited to RSG SG. If they don't control Diablo in lane, and win the mid lane as well, it's going to be very difficult for Slate to even put their foot down.
Well, I mean, both drafts are pretty much equal right now. I can't put a finger on which one I like more, but they both have their pros and cons. Slate is more towards a dive or burst composition, but on the other side, RSG wants to get team fights done. They want to fight as a unit, and we are going to go in, jump straight into that. Abstract, take it away.
As such, ladies and gentlemen, the time that you all have been waiting for in Sanctum Island. RSG versus Slate with an indomitable lineup coming in from both sides. Both, as Churros have said, they do all have their pros and cons. They all have their different kinds of win conditions and, of course, different ways that they would want to attack in battle. As such, let us move right into this game by, of course, introducing the players coming in from both sides, starting off from Slate. We do have Adamir that will be playing onto the Pakido, Sailor onto Kagura, FMM that will be on the Irithel, which is suffering a bit of a health loss, Gear onto the Baxia, as well as JPL that is on Matilda.
This is something that I like. I mean, from the looks of it, 30 seconds into the game, Irithel no choice but to TP back to base. Go to try to get the reset, but hold on a minute, 505, managed to get out of that one. Sailor almost killing him down to no.
Well, I'm not going to be expecting too much coming in from this initial skirmishes, but one thing for sure is that Lolsey have already used all of his Jikundo, but with the mobility speed, not too much of a problem. But yes, we have talked about the RSG being relatively aggressive into the top lane, and because of their Matilda. Matilda wins in lane. And speaking of Matilda, since we have already introduced a Slate, let us move on to introducing RSG with 505 that we're playing onto Valentina. The Cho played by Lolsey. Diablo onto the Esmeralda, Bray onto the Julian, as well as Baby Cakes that will be playing onto the Melissa.
I mean, the emblems are pretty much simple and clean. Everything that we're pretty much used to. We have the Avarice on the Esmeralda, bringing every gold, 10 gold per hero click onto Diablo's name. But as we speak, a lot of these heroes, what RSG is doing is something that I think we're all familiar with. Go into the opponent's jungle, get lane vision, and knowing how Sailor plays into the brush, you need to get control of the vision, and you need to take control of the tempo. Taking control of the tempo, bring that late game earlier. Bring that late game down to where you are comfortable with, and then pop off. Kill them off one by one.
RSG as well as Slate, both of these teams have got quite a lot of similarities when it comes down to dealing AoE damage, eyebrows as well. Wait, hold on a second. Melissa at the top lane actually did manage to get himself a single kill down on the Irithel, but the main action comes here in the bottom lane. As we know, RSG have already gotten themselves a single turtle. 505 tried to run for his life. The Terrify will be able to connect on the 3 and escapes.
Oh, RSG might have bitten more than he can chew. What Lolsey thought was that, hey, if I disturb Sailor as much as possible, maybe he'll delay his farm, delay his progress into the later stages of the game, but he's bitten more than he can chew. Whereas Slate is playing it super disciplinedly. They don't want to engage battles under a turret. They don't want to go too deep in.
And now Baby Cake doesn't really have a lot of health to work with. Lolsey was really trying to set up something. It was trying to create a fight onto JPL and trying to go for the way of the dragon. But unfortunately, JPL weaved into the brush just a little bit too soon, and Longzi lost vision of JPL in order to single him out. That is one lost opportunity, but it doesn't mean that it will not come back again. Longzi being really pesky, constantly being invading into the opponent jungle and trying to do whatever that he can, as we are noticing quite a bit of commotion in the top lane and the bottom lane, as here joins in action in between of Bray as well as Diablo. Both of these teams, they are relatively tanky as well as good amount of sustainability onto their side. Not going to be expecting much coming in from either one of their decks.
I like this Baxia pick because, I mean, hold on a second right now, Diablo down low. Bray tries to get out of it.
Well, it doesn't seem like they have managed to bring any one of these members down to a critical amount of health. Albeit, we do have Esmeralda and Julian pretty low. The Paquito is pretty low as well. Both of these teams have got great control of their lanes.
Oh, what I like about this Baxia pick, I didn't realize it until now, but Diablo is playing Esmeralda, and it's going back to the classes, going back to basic textbook. You take the Baxia to delay or to decrease the amount of heals capability that comes out of Esmeralda, and being that, bring the Baxia in, you take Esmeralda and she's not as tanky anymore.
The Esmeralda pick, he's not necessarily very tanky, but when it comes down to the later stages of the game, buying an Oracle and so on and so forth, I think that there will be some nuances that would help RSG work out with the sustainability. But we probably wouldn't want to look too much into the skirmishes and the fights. Perhaps we will be expecting to see Esmeralda being used into a street lane composition a little bit more. In the meantime, Sailor have already used the Yin Yang overturn, when of course the Circling Eagle connects, the Way of Dragon connects down on the JPL, singles him now right under the turret, and Sailor, he also just gonna be hit by the enhanced chain, putting gear into the front line.
They smelt blood and they want to go for more. The hunt is on. If FMM continues to fight.
FMM pounds us right in, as now we're gonna be looking at Longzi just gonna be making his way right the enemies, and Diablo will be able to bring yet another person down. Gear, Sailor, and Amir, one after another, they are gonna be taken down.
After all said and done, RSG came up on top with the turtle kill as well as 2 kills to
mobility as well as a single leap. It does not necessarily get himself out of the grasp of a Hungry Joe.
Oops, and we got to try to bide a little bit more time to understand what is going on. We do want them to have an equal footing, like I said, but I want to add on to the Melissa, you talk about the Melissa, and Melissa right here, I'm going to bring up a pun, not really a pun, but like, you know, finding a needle in a haystack?
Yep.
How do you find a needle? How do you find a needle in a haystack? I'm going to ask you this question.
How do I find a needle in a haystack? Well, I just jump onto the haystack and hope that it pokes me so that I can find it.
I will burn the hay. And this is basically what Melissa does.
Okay, two different kind of people then.
Burn the hay and the needle is left there. What you have with Melissa, once you throw a puppet, needle splits onto the side of Slate Esports, melting the rest of them. And then you get a perfectly executed team fight with a lot of bursts as well as AoE damage. This is why you picked it, Melissa, because RSG trying to force team fights in. Do you want to fight 5 on 5? You want to pick off one and then force an engage that Slate doesn't want to take. RSG is really capable of doing that.
RSG's composition is really more of like a run it down kind of team, right? They don't have any characters or heroes that have high ground advantage. They don't have any way that they will be able to deal damage in a far distance. Valentina does have double dashes, and the cone, the radius of her first skill can only hit so far. So the only thing that they can do is literally get in your face of the opponent. That is definitely something that Cho would like. That is something that Julian would like as well, especially since he does have CC to his name, CC to his enhanced chain. Shouldn't be too big of a problem whenever they try to jump right in. He does have a dash as well, let's not forget about that. Esmeralda does have the Falling Star Moon to get herself even closer over to the front line or back line, depending on how she wants it. While Melissa, she is pretty much like a 1-1, right?
Yeah.
All you gotta do is to babysit her in the early stages of the game. Granted, she does do strong in the laning phase, so she doesn't need heavy babysitting. She can do well in lane all by herself, but in order to help her push the turrets even more, then it's going to be, she's definitely gonna need some help in order to change the lanes in order to get her more gold and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I want to add on to what Slate's win condition is right now. Sayla is doing an immense job, a fantastic job, trying to zone out at least one hero at a time. It's just Sayla doing Sayla things. You know how he's going to play. You know that he's going to stay in a bush. But which bush? That's the question. Lawsy needs to find out where Sayla is. Wherever Sayla is, we've seen him always waiting for that right time. He has that patience to wait for any possible moments where I would say Melissa coming into contact with, and then pop that yin yang overturn, melting them down to bits.
I'm looking at a far spectrum as to Slate's composition and draft as well. But all I can really tell is that the team just wants to do kind of like a drawn-out fight. Whatever that they do, they will always want to have a Baxia as well as Paquito take the front lines.
Yes.
They are sustainable in their own / tanky onto their own. In the meantime, the other members such as Kagura, Irithel, as well as Mathilda, they have mobility and they will be able to weave around battles pretty efficiently. As such, I would believe that Kagura and Mathilda may play as bait as a couple of times in order to catch RSG completely off guard. That bait and switch strategy may very well be one of their gameplay.
Yeah, and both teams do have a head-to-head kind of clash drafting going on right here, but we are going to go straight back into the game where RSG already taking down that mid and bottom lane turret. Slate Esports not taking any turrets at all. They do have a disadvantage right here in gold in 4K right now.
No, one thing that I do want to point out as well is the fact that Bray has just picked up God itself. As such, this is going to be a relatively tanky RSG, pretty tanky Julian as well. So, the frontline of RSG, boy oh boy, may I just say they are really tanky. But when it comes down to damage, they do want to out-sustain a Slate. Because no matter how you look at it, JPL, yes, he can make a couple of defensive items, but it would not be as tanky as Bray, who is sustainable, not be as tanky as Longzy, who does have more mobility skills, as well as the fact that Diablo does have a kit that allows him to be sustainable. As such, RSG, they just want to out-sustain their enemies. They want to be the one that survives in a battlefield longer than Slate. And this is a game of who can survive the longest.
Let's take a look at the items real quick. Already RSG being 4K net worth up ahead of Slate Esports. Diablo already taking up 2 core items. Julian, like you said, buying defensive back. Hold on a second. Adam here in a spot of bother right there.
As 505 flickers himself away out of the grasp of Sayla as well as Adamir right in the nick of time. Regardless of all of that, Slate did manage to use quite a bit of their ultimate, and in fact, speaking of ultimate, that is going to be Eagle that's going to be connected on Longzy, but Longzy just pushes him his way right onto gear with a weight on Dragon. He walks himself right into Mother Protection in order to get himself in safe and sound condition. Diablo pops the sprint, puts himself in face of FMM. He runs it through with the moonlight and stardust, and just going to be sprinkling into the face of FMM.
The timing, did you guys see that? The purple buff just spawned up, blocking FMM's path out of any escape. Man, what was that? Okay, let's take a look into the replay real quick. JPL jumping in straight onto Lawsy. Lawsy bringing back and kicking here into the palms of RSG SG. And then they are just doing their thing. RSG fighting front to back, and then they do not have any protection. This is the problem when you have a frontline reliant draft. You do need to have those 2 tanky heroes being able to absorb as much ultimates, absorb much damage as possible. But as we speak, RSG SG already 7K gold up ahead with basically almost all the objectives in their favor right now.
A ravaging play from RSG SG. They already have got the game plan that they have, and that is really just running right into the face of the enemies. And notice how RSG's Longzy immediately went in on the gear, knowing that gear is going to be the ultimate problem when it comes down to the Tortoise's persons. You wouldn't want to have the anti-heal mechanic land onto RSG SG, because that is going to inhibit the growth as well as the survivability of Diablo and Bray themselves.
Lawsy just being played as a bait, but look at that damage done by Diablo, the sustain coming in. Adamir, nothing to do. Diablo tries to jump in with the falling star moon. Adamir in the safety of his turret, nothing to do there, but gives enough time for for Diablo to try to rotate up and to flank into that. But hold on a second, enhanced chain.
It is going to be a lot of crowd control going on. The enhanced chain did manage to knock Gear off board, but not necessarily enough for them to do anything else to him. They do have grand control and free real estate throughout the upper quadrant of Slate's jungle, and there isn't much that Slate can do other than pulling their forces down to the bottom lane.
Diablo is doing a very good job trying to bait the rest of Slate Esports down to just shot call and just wipe him out, take Diablo out of the picture. But when that happens, that gives enough time for RSG SG to take down the Lord as we speak. And they're just doing it willy-nilly. They don't have any contest right there. First one of the game coming down to the side of RSG SG.
A quick reminder to to all of the audiences is the fact that this is only 10 minutes into the game. RSG SG is out microing their game against Slate to the point that they have put themselves 10,000 gold ahead of Slate.
Man, I didn't even notice that, but they're taking everything from Slate. And Slate only has dealt a little bit of damage into the mid lane turret, but that's not enough. What they need to do is find a hay in a needle stack. I'm going to use that thing again. It's so difficult because the main damage is coming out from Baby Cakes and 505 already. Ballsy is just baiting out any of the Circling Eagles coming up from JPL. That's why he's always staying in the front line. 505, there we see again the trifecta. 505, Lawsy, and Baby Cakes always staying as a unit. Great there for backup. And Diablo over at the other corner, but hold on a second. Killing spree goes on 505.
Baby Cakes unfortunately was not busted down by the hands of Sailor just yet, but because of the gold deficit, it makes it a lot more difficult. Ademir pops himself over to the back lines, brought down Baby Cakes, and immediately retreated out of harm's way. But unfortunately, 505, he does have his mobility, but Ademir with a double of a punch, he got himself out of the way and made sure that 505 will not catch him, at least for now. We do have quite a lot of things going down to the bottom lane. 505 following Paquito all the way to the bottom lane, and this means that Valentina is no longer going to be in action and in the fight. This way, the Lord is a lot more easier for Slate to handle.
That is a very, very disciplined and reserved playstyle coming in from RSG SG. Came in with the Lord, take out all the tier 1, tier 2 turrets, and get out of the way. You don't want to overstay your welcome right now because you know Slate's potential. As long as you have a Boxia, he's going to kill the Ligand. But hold on a second here, Bray gets caught inside. Will he be able to get out? He does. I wasn't worried about that. I wasn't worried about that.
I mean, he does have an enhanced sword.
He does.
And look at his health bar, buddy. It's really tough for Slate.
He's a tank Julian anyway.
He is a tank Julian, yes. But I gotta have to say, and I gotta have to commend Slate, is the fact that so far into the game, it just doesn't seem as though Slate is playing so far behind when it comes down to team fights, because they haven't died that much, right? Yes, they have died and they have lost their lives a couple of times, but they don't show the disparity that much because they know their own game plan. They know how much disciplined that they can be, how far they can farm, and how much they can handle within their grasp.
A very disciplined playstyle from RSG SG. They're not even going in. They're just keeping the waves into the side of Slate Esports' jungle. Look at every single one of the waves, all pushing into Slate, giving them a lot of stress and pressure within their own home, within their own base. This gives a lot of time for RSG to just set up for that Lord. The second Lord, I don't think it's going to be contested at all. What's better is, like, they're not power hungry. They don't want to do anything. They want to go for the objectives. They just want to win and take down that throne.
With this Lord available for both of these teams to take, that objective itself is going to be the only reason why Slate is going to be firing a lot, because they are ready to implode with the wrong rumble. Once they throw their bodies over to RSG, try to steal this Lord, or try to overextend their lead by pushing the waves a little bit too much, that is going to be a premature defeat onto their end. But luckily for them, they are not really luckily for them, but because of the fact that they are, of course, a very prominent team, they know what they need to do.
With the Enhanced Lord marching down on the north side, all of RSG SG is trying to coagulate down bottom side, trying to lure all of Slate Esports members all the way to them, try to start a fight. They don't want to try to engage on any fights. They want Slate to bait out all of their ultimates, especially JPL. Once JPL uses a Circling Eagle, that pushes them back into that fight. There's nothing they can do. But hold on a second right here. Flicker goes down to JPL, almost missing.
Adamir constantly trying to push his shoulders onto the side of RSG with a single charge coming in from the Trident-wielding Water Elemental Lord. He moves right in, destroys the first tier, destroys the inhibitor turret in the top lane, while RSG focuses all of their resources in the middle lane. Adamir takes a flicker, and he went straight in for the knockout punch, but unfortunately he wasn't able to do quite much. JPL here, taken down, next is Sailor, FMM, he might be next, as Diablo's just gonna be pushing himself right into the Cork's range. He don't go down just yet, but the rest of RSG SG, they are pretty much still alive, despite the fact not having Baby King. They still have the firepower, they still can do whatever that they can, but unfortunately they cannot underestimate the power of FMM, as long as the Emperor, they focuses down the core.
That was, what a play by RSG. What a play. So textbook, so disciplined, waiting for the engage under their turret, and Julian just slowly